I'm not averse to the idea of conducting controversial human subject experimentation correctly. And so when I was in university, I served on an institutional review board for 7 years. And an institutional review board exists to ensure that the Nuremberg Code is applied in any case of human subject experimentation. Right? And so for me, this is just normal practice.
Yeah.
So that's when this whole, people are like, oh, gender affirmation treatment came around. It's like, okay, well, let me look up the research studies. Right? I mean, if it's approved, well, there's got to be a process for approval. Well, it turns out that the process for approval involved political decisions.
Yeah.
That simply said, you don't have to do the research for this.
Right.
And then, and that's when the, like, spidey sense starts going off.
Yeah.
Because these aren't optional.
No.
The Nuremberg Code is not optional.
Right. It's supposed to be settled law. Yeah.
Well, and whether it's the law of the land that specifically applies or not is a complex question, because there's powerful incentives that don't want the Nuremberg Code to be the law of the land. And we can get into that. But the morally and philosophically, coming from the atrocities of World War II, the Nuremberg Code is what prevents that. So whether the law says you don't have to comply with the Nuremberg Code or not, you're supposed to comply with the Nuremberg Code as a licensed medical professional.
As a matter of ethics,
The reason why professionals do not get government, like direct government regulation, and why they're instead regulated by peers who have moral and ethical charges, is because they're supposed to understand the intricacies of their profession better. They're supposed to raise the bar of ethics higher than that could have been created by the government alone. What a doctor should have a better understanding of why the Nuremberg Code is necessary to prevent the practice of medicine from getting off the rails more than a government bureaucrat.
Right.
But the job of the American Medical Association and the job of the American Psychological Association is to enforce on their members the Nuremberg Code and to prevent them from engaging in unethical human subject experimentation. That's really their core mission. And similar to what the example we've given with regards to the military, if that's your core mission, but you're not doing your core mission because you're doing anything else, now you got an issue.
Yeah.
And the issue is your core mission will not happen. And what happened was they had a political directive. And the political directive was you have to be as open and inclusive as possible. And you had this evolution because it was as recent as 2000, not long ago, that in Texas, sodomy was still illegal. It was perfectly justifiable for the state to send in use their monopoly power to enter the bedroom of an individual who was engaging in conduct that they didn't like.
Yeah.
The backlash to that and the Supreme Court correction for that case,
Lawrence versus Texas,
was leave them alone. They're adults.
Yeah.
What business does the federal government have regulating the lives of adults?
Right.
Right? Why are we using the police power for this? It was 70%, 80% of the country could get behind that. It's like, look, you guys are adults.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. We don't care. Like, this is not something that should be the police power.
I just don't want to see it, don't want to hear about it, you know?
And then but that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Right? And then it turned into appreciation days.
Right.
And then it turned into infusion of ideology into the school system.
Yep.
Right? And then at a certain point, this is when the bell goes off, why aren't you doing math until the bell comes back on?
Yeah.
Why is there 15 minutes of therapy communication? Like, when I was a kid, I didn't know my teacher's first name. I didn't know if they were gay or straight. I might have guessed if they were married, if they had a wedding ring on.
Yeah, sure.
But I wouldn't know what they did over the weekends.
No.
God knows I wouldn't know what what type of genitalia they had, how they felt about it, what they did with it on the weekend.
Right.
And God forbid that, or God help them if they ever tried to ask us that.
Right.
Because our parents wouldn't have tolerated it.
It's completely inappropriate.
And that's where it's like, where did this get infused into the school system at all? Right? Because it's like, look, it's a question of degree. It's like, even social conservatives will agree that the police shouldn't go into the gay couple's home.
Right.
But there's boundaries, right?